With the Olympics coming to LA in 2028, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee has effectively barred transgender women from competing in women's sports. The change was actually announced yesterday on the committee's website. It references an executive order signed by President Trump, which threatens to rescind all money from organizations that allow transgender athlete participation in women's sports. The move follows a similar step taken by the NCAA earlier this year.
Colorado Springs, Colorado. Per the AP, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee has effectively barred transgender women from competing in women's sports, telling the federations overseeing swimming, athletics, and other sports it has an obligation to comply with an executive order issued by President Donald Trump. The new policy, announced Monday with a quiet change on the USOPC's website and confirmed in a letter sent to national sport governing bodies, follows a similar step taken by the NCAA earlier this year. The USOPC change is noted obliquely as a detail under USOPC athlete safety policy and references Trump's executive order, keeping men out of women's sports. Signed in February, that order, among other things, threatens to rescind all funds from organizations that allow transgender athletes participating in women's sports. U.S. Olympic officials told the national governing bodies they will need to follow suit, adding that the USOPC has engaged in a series of respectful and constructive conversations with federal officials since Trump signed the order. As a federally chartered organization, we have an obligation to comply with federal expectations. USOPC CEO Sarah Hirshland and President Gene Sykes wrote in a letter. A revised policy emphasizes the importance of ensuring fair and safe competition environments for women. All national governing bodies are required to update their applicable policies in alignment. Another organization bows to the whims of the Trump administration. Despite mountains of evidence showing the transgender athletes have no biological advantages over their competitors, the USOPC would rather back down from a fight worth having to keep the peace and allow conservatives to attack one of their favorite targets and score points with their base. Should be noted as well that transgender men are not affected by this ruling because I guess the right couldn't resist throwing some misogyny in with their transphobia.
Yogi has it better than a millionaire. That's because he's smarter than the average bear.
A bear attacked a person in Tochigi Prefecture on Monday, but don't worry, it wasn't real. No one was harmed because the bear was actually a man in a costume, well, a mask really, taking part in a safety drill conducted by local authorities in the Hunters Club around 100 kilometers north of Tokyo, and they really saved the taxpayers some money on this one. Okay, so out of Oklahoma, there's this guy, Ryan Walters. He's the superintendent there, big star in conservative media, Huckabee the Blaze. He hangs out with Chaya Raichik, that creep from libs of TikTok, the ones who dox anybody they suspect of being a quote-unquote groomer. Despite the fact that they're all getting in line with this Epstein shit now. This guy wants to put Bibles back in the classroom. He wants to pay for the Bibles with school funds. Apparently that's illegal. He wants the Supreme Court to lift that. They need about 4,500 teachers to get emergency certified. That's not teachers, by the way. That's anybody with a bachelor's degree. The school district is that hard up for teachers that they need that many people to come forward. However, they don't want anybody from New York or California or any other quote-unquote woke states because they would have to undergo a purity test, an ideological test that would be created by PragerU. PragerU, my God. We could do a whole video on them. Just do yourself a favor. Look up Dennis Prager's article on, reasons that women who aren't in the mood shouldn't deny their husband sex. Lovely people. Just awesome. Literally the most disgusting man on the planet. Anyway, this guy wants them to come up with a test for teachers to determine how woke they are. Now, I don't know what this guy's definition of woke is. It seems to change day by day. It's, depending on which brand of conservative or Republican you are, it's, it's if you believe that gender is a spectrum, if you think that, people should have rights, if, you're anti-racist, if you, don't want to just be ground up into a fine paste by a overarching capitalist system that slowly drains your will and life force away from you. That's woke. That's all too much woke shit. No, this guy just wants our schools to be about, Bibles, Bibles, the Bible. I don't know which Bible he means, because I don't know if he knows this. There's the Hebrew Bible, which some people call the Old Testament. I don't know if he's going to like that either, because there's a lot of stuff in there about, giving and sharing and, helping people out, do unto others. I don't think you're going to like that. You might want to try a different book. I don't know. Settlers. Let's see. Mein Kampf. Maybe Mein Kampf. This guy might like that. Maybe, I don't know, Starship Troopers, but don't tell people that it's a parody. And these guys are really just gross. This is just another attempt to try to force conservative ideology into the school system and onto people, to try to make that what's normal in America. Like they've sort of ultimately decided that what America should be, what Americans should be, is just like them, just someone who obeys the government, as long as there's a Republican in the government. Can't stress that enough. You have to resist if there's a Democrat, but if it's a Republican in government, you have to obey. Someone who has extremely rigid sort of patriarchal gender roles, someone who has faith, but not really any kind of specific faith, more just the idea that you love God and God loves you, and whatever you do is fine as long as you say you're sorry eventually. No real sort of strictures or, main ideology there. Just really like, we love God and God makes everything we do correct. These are not good people. They're not people you really want educating your kids. I mean, especially this guy. I don't know if you know this, but Oklahoma is actually either 48th or 49th. It only beats out West Virginia. Not really seem to be a great way to educate children. I mean, I'm sure there's some lessons in the Bible that they could teach. So this ultimately is something that needs to be stopped. These people don't just want to control the present moment. They want to create another generation of people like them. And that's why it's important. We need to get people like this Ryan Walters out of office. We need to make the education system objective, apolitical, purely fact-based. I don't know how this guy ended up like this. Apparently he used to be a history teacher. Maybe he got really into the 1940s and decided to run with it. But we can't have people like this making decisions about what our kids learn, because, sounds like all he wants them to learn are the 3 Gs, God, guns, and goddamn, these people are stupid. For AT News, I'm Dave. Thanks for watching.
In front of Chicago, Silver, you get 3 points.